What are we talking about here, Sushant Serene? What's the real issue?
Rahul, the real issue is a very simple one. One, I think the way Twitter was being run under Dorsey and again his successor, that fellow of Indian origin, it was clearly a very agenda-driven platform. They were trying to push agendas. So, for example, when Dorsey had come to India, I think it was in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, you remember that he was holding this poster, Smash Brahminical Patriarchy. What business? He's a businessman. He is running a platform which is a social networking platform. It also peddles information and disinformation. Should a person like that be wading into whatever social or political issues there are in India? Is it his business to do that? But these guys were doing it, right? And they were meeting with a specific kind of people, these deracinated Indians who have absolutely nothing to do with India. They will spout these nonsensical terms like Brahminical patriarchy, but never speak about, for example, what happens in other faiths, right? But they, Hindus are a nice, convenient whipping boy, so you whip them. Number one. So one was the agenda-driven problem, the agenda-driven, aspect of Twitter, which was a problem. The second was a legal one. The legal one was that it is that you are either a platform or you're a publisher. You can't be both. And these guys were planning to be both. When it suited them, they said we are a platform. When they wanted to assume deniability, and when they wanted to push an agenda, they became a publisher. They were the ones who decided what they will censor and what they will allow. Who had given them this right? Tehseen, the only sensible thing he said was loony lefties, right? I completely agree with him on that. Other than that, everything else he said was he was being disingenuous. So, for example, you have a problem if the government sets up a fact-checking authority. Now, that is not a censorship authority. That's a fact-checking authority because of so much of disinformation which is going on. You have a problem with that. But you don't have a problem when Twitter on its own, either because of algorithms or because of people that it employs, decides in a very cavalier manner what is Shuddho and what is Ashuddho. Are we going to give a platform like Twitter that right? I would rather give it to my government with all the problems I might have with my government, right? At least I can shout out here. I can take them to court. I can do many things out here. What do I do with Twitter? And every time they were being dragged to court on this issue, they would say that we have nothing to do with it. It's being run from California. You go to California and do it. And when Tehseen says that why didn't the government throw the law book at them? And I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just speculating on this. I think the problem was that there were, Twitter kind of fell between the cracks. There was that ambiguity on how you are going to impose the law on these guys. And I think that is where the problems came in. But for Twitter to pretend that this was, a holier than thou kind of an organization, which was only trying to spread love and affection all over the world, is utter nonsense. The amount of poisonous propaganda that Twitter on its own was spreading at that point of time, under this guy Dorsey's charge and that other clown of Indian origin who was heading this thing with that woman, again of an Indian, I'm not surprised they were Indians. Because many of them, these Uncle Toms and Auntie Toms out there try and become more white than the white men themselves. And then they, do the kind of things which they do. But clearly, that was a huge problem. And I think under Elon Musk, at least a part of that problem has been sorted out. But for Twitter to pretend that, it was all
holier than thou and
one last point, Rahul, just one very quick last point. To say that he was factually wrong. He was a liar on that particular show. He lied. But more than that, this white man thing which they have, that Indian law does not apply to them. They are in the West and they violate the law and somebody raids their offices, it's perfectly fine because the white man is doing it. But they come to India and if the law book is thrown at them, even though there were no raids, but somebody raids an office for wrongdoing, that is, democracy is dead.
Well, let me tell you, when that happened with the BBC, they all hit the roads. And Smita
and then
Prakash,
the BBC admitted that.
and then the BBC admitted that, look, we mucked up. We've got a lot of money to owe to the government. Can you imagine,
they cheated
viewers?
on taxes.
Can you imagine, viewers, how many crores? You know how many crores those were? And they still haven't been assessed, but they came up with the number themselves. Can you imagine how many schemes could have benefited? Anyhow, viewers, we are used to being ripped up by the Brits. It's happened in the past. It will continue to happen. I just hope that we develop better sense and we get over our little inferiority complex